So once again, I want to thank you all for coming. Reminder for everybody, please make sure you pay Paula before you leave today. And as always, if you're happy with the service, a nice tip. Worked very hard, her and her crew, so thank you very much to Alexandra's, Paula, for providing the room and the space. And as far as I know, I don't think our price has increased since we've been here, so. Yeah. So let's get on with the meeting, because we got a couple surprises that we're going to share with you before Mike Reagan hopefully shows up and speaks. He tells me he'll be here, but he always seems to swoosh in at the last minute. So I'm going to go right into the questions so we can get moving on. The first question from the OGR forum. Does Lionel have any plans to release a method signal strength car, for instance, that would allow a roving measurements of the signal strength of the 455 kilohertz signal? This would be immense help to those who are trying to troubleshoot large layouts. Something a little different I did, by the way. I added the names of the folks that asked for no particular reason, to help me keep track of who's asking questions. And so the response was from John Z. At this time, Lionel does not have plans to introduce a signal strength car. We have toyed with the idea and found that the results from measuring on the track are mixed, and that the low signal did not always show up as a control failure of the TMCC logo. Question number 2. Why did you use the TAS LC? Why didn't you use the TAS LCS system? For those not familiar with TAS, that's the Train America Studios. About probably 2 years before they disbanded, they introduced an LCS system that would track trains around the layout, and pretty much what LCS is doing today with the sensor track. But TAS was, I don't think they were absorbed into Lionel, but when Mike moved over to Lionel, that kind of closed up shop. So it had more features and didn't rely on buying more locomotives and engines, or buying more engines to make it work. Just curious. John's answer, I prefer not to speculate on what system is best or has more features. I can't say you should buy more locomotives whenever possible to fund our R&D efforts, and that comment was made tongue-in-cheek, so before everybody gets on the forum. And my question, I am one of those who have never solved the signal strength problems with my legacy Cab 2 controller. I believe I've heard Lionel is planning to make a signal strengthener. Any word on that being correct? I am running 1.5, tried chaining channels, and am now on 9. I have a hawking antenna mounted up in the ceiling. I presume the loss is between the Cab 2 and the base. Not sure how I could tell if the issue is from the base to the locomotive devices. Simply getting the red light of death on the Cab 2. Well, that pretty much tells you it's a signal between the base and the Cab 2. In addition to this happening when there are visitors present, it happened when I am operating with scenery between me and the base. That is why I was hoping a single strength enhancer might solve the problem. From John, I'm sorry to hear that the legacy system is not working optimally. We do find that the Wi-Fi 2.4 gigahertz spectrum is crowded, and as such can cause signal issues. In addition, we do not know what metal structures cause signal reflections and can interfere with signal strength. I really don't have a specific answer for you other than Lionel customer service is your best course of support. If the system fails to perform even after replacement, you may need to investigate your environment. Perhaps take the legacy system to a friend's house or set up a temporary layout in a different room to evaluate the legacy system performance, one way or the other. And in the past, we've always talked about the different antenna solutions that folks have come up with, and obviously it looks like Peter has tried those. From my experiences, and even this is something that was commented on in one of the earlier lug meetings, is to get your base up where it's more line of sight. But obviously, if your antenna's up, I don't really think that's going to be much of a difference because it's trying to get to the antenna. So, and I think this one will make everybody happy. Will the delivered big boy models have customized cab numbers specific to through talk? All Vision Line products have unique dialogues with cab and road-specific announcements. So that was a big question on the forum that never really got answered, right from John Z's mouth. I have heard it both ways that it's new tolling, this is to the big boy, that it's new tolling that it reuses, and that it reuses the tolling from JLC, Joshua Lyon Cohen version of the big boy. Just wondering if it'll be the same 32-inch as my Vision Line Challenger, or if it'll be the correct scale size, which I figure about 34 inches. Also, new versus old tolling will determine if the run program smoke on-off switches are under the local or on a removable sand dome. The Vision Line Big Boy will be based on the JLC Legacy Big Boy tolling. I don't recall all of the changes implemented for the Vision Line version, but I'm sure Mike Reagan will answer the specifics at the lug meeting. Mike? If I don't remember to ask Mike when he does come in, please somebody bring that up. Because Mike will tell you that's one of his babies, so, and I would think he would know. Number 6, are the features needed for depleting coal load already in Legacy 1.52? If not, will there be any chance for 1.5x, 1.6 upgrade modules being free to customers buying the big boy whose Macs cannot download the updates to their computer? Legacy 1.52 will support the Vision Line Big Boy directly. As far as free modules, I can't answer that. Couple suggestions that we've made in the past. Hopefully you know somebody with a local hobby shop that'll make them for you. Whether Line Out Customer Service will make them for you at the cost of the black modules is always a possibility, but that would have to be directed in customer service. And there's enough guys on the forum. I know Gun Runner has offered, I've offered. There's enough people that it's going to be a little bit of delay to get the modules back and forth, but there's a lot of guys, especially in our environment, that are very happy. All right, back up one.
Back up one. We got it. I just heard customers are very happy. I must be in the wrong place. Not all the customers.
One of the questions that was asked about the tolling for the big boy, would the switches for program run, smoke, and everything be under the sand dome, or would they be under the locomotive? That was one of the questions that John seemed to push in your direction.
Huh? What's the question?
The big boy tolling Vision Line, would the program run switches and the smoke switches be under sand domes, or will they be under the cabs? Or?
They'll be underneath the cab. Okay. Yeah, we're actually the design work for the big boy's done, and we're in the process of 3D printing all the parts so that we can do a final test fit of all the prototype PCBs, or not prototypes, but the test builds on the boards, make sure everything fits, we don't have any clearance issues. We do this is a part of a new process that we're doing, so that we don't go, because in the past we'd go cut the tools, you get the Pro E designs, you look at it, everything looks nice on the computer, you go cut it, you've got shrinkage, you've got areas that will expand, get bigger, depending on how the tooling's set up. So we do the 3D printing, we test fit it all. If there's any tweaks to be made, we do that. We cut the tools, we got to cut the tools once, and then we can start shooting them and go to production. There's no delays. So it saves us about 2.5 months on the production cycle, in the production process. We don't have to go back and tweak tools, we just cut them one time, and then we can run, immediately go into sub-assemblies.
Marty, how about the other half of that question? Is it going to be the scale length of 34 inches roughly, or is it going to be the JLC?
It's going to be the length of JLC. That's the base tool that we're starting with, and that's what we're modifying from.
Okay.
So we're not cutting entirely new tooling for the engine we already have tools for, contrary to how we've done things in the past.
Okay, moving on. Question number 7. At one time it was mentioned that the legacy base cab 2 upgrades might be handled via the LCS iPad app. Any more information about that? This is a possibility, but not currently in development. Perhaps one of our LCS partners would be willing to write an app for this purpose. Could LCS be interface triggered by an insulated outside rail? I have under the table storage tracks that would be most difficult to install the LCS sensor track, but I do have insulated outside rail sections already installed. I'm not sure John understood this answer because it really didn't make much sense to me, but you can be the judge. Such a concept is certainly a possibility, but I cannot commit to any product at this point in time. I do believe a sensing module is needed, one to pass this is where it gets a little confusing to me. One to pass the fast track turnout position information to LCS, keep the screen app in sync with the turnout, and additionally to support the insulated rail approach. I think the second half, he kind of wandered off into switch position and stuff. But it looks like the first half of the question, whether isolated rail, it looks like there'd be another sensing module or something that would have to report back to the LCS. Since I will not be able to talk to the guys at the Lionel booth, I would appreciate it if somebody would swing by and then post an update on the Wi-Fi and SER2 modules. Neither one is on Lionel's production schedule posted on their website. Johns, I always hesitate to discuss dates on product deliveries. There are so many variables. I do know that the SER2, IR track, and Wi-Fi are currently in production. The ASC2 and BPC2 are close to production start time. While I was over at the booth, I heard the Wi-Fi was June-ish.
It'll be delivered July-ish.
Okay.
You gotta remember, a lot of people inside Lionel, we talk about OBS date, that's onboard ship date. So onboard ship is when the product is technically done, it goes from the factory to the boat, and it's in transit. Well, in transit, 6 weeks, 45 days. So we say, oh yeah, it's gonna be out in June. Well, it's gonna be on the boat like 5/25, which means it's not gonna be in the States until mid-July. And that's 6 weeks to hit North Carolina. Now, if you buy from an indirect dealer, that's another 2 weeks to go from our DC, our distribution center, to the wholesaler, and from the wholesaler to the indirect account. So you're talking 2 months in transit in some instances. Now, there's some things we'll air freight in if it's close to the end of the year and we're trying, Vision big boys are going to be air freighted, as much as I hate to say it. But, we're going to be really, I'm going to live in China for an entire month in November building big boys, just so we can make the year get them out in the year. But this is.
Now, with that said, we're going to make a collection after the meeting to send Mike a Thanksgiving dinner in China.
Well, Boston Market will open something.
Now, was the sensor track around the same time?
Sensor track July. Actually, sensor tracks are in production right now. They should be done right around 5/10. So late June, early July.
So we'll say mid to late summer for the answer.
Marty, send him a case of egg rolls. That's Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Take out.
They have Thanksgiving shrimp.
Last year there was a question about making the cab light, which would be the light inside the cab, not anything to do with the remote, icon a master switch. When the cab light is in the off position, the cab light would not come on when the engine is stopped or reversed. As it currently functions, when the engine's stopped, the cab light comes on. This would be great for switching operations. Is that possible upgrade to the cab light feature? We have logged this in our update list. I do not have a time frame for this request being implemented. So they've heard it from the last meeting. It's on the list to do, probably with a million other things.
You can actually do that now. It just takes a pair of long needle nose pliers and squeeze hard.
But smack your cab too here.
Did I happen to mention that the Legacy Users Group has no association with Lionel or Lionel? We do this purely for fun. Number 11, is it possible to add treble and bass control of the sound output via cab 2? Being able to adjust these levels would enhance sound quality. I do not believe we can control this level of sound mixing after the files are encoded in the rail sound systems. I can't state, while a cool idea, that we won't support treble or bass controls in rail sounds in the foreseeable future.
No equalizer car, huh?
What if any upgrades does the legacy MOW crane offer over the old TMCC versions? This is the TMCC crane that's now offered in the new legacy.
It's a legacy crane.
The improvements to the user are fairly minimal: a quilling whistle, some improved dialogue, etc. Consumable pool water diesel fuel is a great feature and adds play value. Thank you. Can you add a bar graph for each to represent the current level, basically a fuel gauge? Done. With the IR sensor track and fuel and water updated and a bar graph on the cab 2. And that's currently, if you want to see that demo, that's currently happening right up here with the sensor track that we got. And to add on that a little bit, I'm sure some of you know, some of you probably maybe don't know, that as your engine's going around the track, if you hit aux, get up to the menu so I can actually see it. If you hit aux 1 and the crew chatter, the gentleman will say what his water level is intermittently, or say what his fuel level is. So it reports back, and it does match the fuel gauges on the engine. When it's halfway, he reports, my water's half empty. He's obviously, what do they call it, half empty, half full. So I think he's usually stating.
So it'll give you optimist and pessimist responses?
That's the aux 0, you know.
That's better than treble and bass.
And the other, and once you load the water, when you hit the sensor track again, your water level shows full. But once it'll show if you're half until it hits that sensor track again. It can't report back, obviously, that you filled it. So when it goes back, your gauge fills up again. So, can you allow the operator to determine the consumption rate beyond the parameters of speed and labor? For example, you have the factory settings and then the option to increase or reduce the rate by the multiplier or divisor to either hasten or slow the base consumption rate. This is pertaining to the big boy coal load, whether you can speed it up based on, you know, if you got friends over and you're only going to run for 15 minutes or what have you, and you want to show it. I know there's a demo mode, but I think he's just talking operational. In short, the answer is no to this type of operator control. The changes to the system would be extensive and not follow our goal to be realistic based on locomotive metrics. Each loco is reviewed relatively to the fuel burn rate, fuel tank size, etc., and programmed accordingly into each locomotive at manufactured time. For example, if you have more than one loco in a consist, they operate independently relative to consumption, adding realism. Since the metrics are programmed when the software is built for each loco, they're not easily changed. The user can affect the burn rate by changing labor on the loco with the cab 2, cab 1, cab 1L, or cab 2. It is an easy button press on the cab 2, and the result of continuously variable burn rate and therefore continuously variable time to out of fuel or water on any layout. The other item I want to mention is the water steamers only reaches empty before full load. You can fill the water independently of the fuel. So basically the short answer is no, because it varies between locos at the burn rate and fuel tank basically. Like I said, there is a demo mode. I don't have not seen the engine. I'm not sure how that's accomplished.
Demo mode is when it's sitting at idle. You hold down the brake button, full motors go down, and you press and hold reset, and you go back up.
Now, my experiences with just playing around with what I've got, and I got a simple 18x6 loop that I'm running. If you strike up your labor and you put your train brake on and really make it work, it doesn't take long for the fuel and water, or the fuel and water gauges to start moving. So I gotta assume it takes 4 passes for the water to dump. It takes 8 passes for my fuel gauge to start dumping on a 6 by 18 foot layout, and that's a loop, so it's not as long as you would think it would be. Can we be allowed to use the LSU to customize the menu keys beyond the bottom 2 right keys? For example, I would like to include labor effects on the home menu and in effect the speedo button becomes a menu toggle button, and the end user can completely customize the various menus. A benefit for this would be those who complain about crew talk could eliminate the tower, comm, and cab keys completely from their home menu. Then maybe they will stop complaining about that feature. Yeah, probably won't happen, but it'd be cool. So for folks that don't know what he's talking about, using the LSU program from a PC, these 2 bottom, and even actually from the iPad app, these 2 bottom keys can be changed between ditch lights, marker lights, roll 17. You can, as long as the engine has it, you can assign them regardless. If the engine doesn't have it, it just doesn't work. But you can customize these 2 bottom panels a little bit. So he was asking for more customization.
So I can't put ground lights on my steam engine?
No, unless it comes from line up. Many of the cab 2 keys are possible to change. We have not opened up that possibility to the user, but given time, we may be able to expose these features. I hope to make changes to allow the LSU to run over LCS Wi-Fi interface, and maybe that is the time to expose more features. One of the questions that will be coming up is the PC. Right now, currently, you have to attach it to the serial cable to talk to the base. And now that we have Wi-Fi connectivity, one of the questions that came up in the past and was looked at was, can we just use the Wi-Fi on our PCs to connect with the LSU program? And I actually asked that later on, and we'll come through that answer. How come the first digit in the engine number displayed on the screen when scrolling becomes garbled? Please see the photo below. I don't know if you can see, but it's on your sheet. I've experienced this. I fix it with the LSU, and almost instantly the first digit becomes scrambled again. What is the fix? Basically, the cab number, if you have a 4-digit or even a 3-digit cab number, the first digit always has some garbled mess. I've been able to fix it just by re-entering the road number manually. The LSU fixes it, and the fix for this, and he's told me this before because I brought it to his attention. I hate to admit this, but this one has eluded us for years. Although with version 1.52, I've not seen this happen very often. Clearing the engine record fixes the road number. Number 17.
It's actually a bug in the code. When version 1.6 is out, next year, it'll be fixed for good.
As soon as you find it.
No, he found it.
Oh, he did
Oh,
find it.
yeah. I got an email about it 2 days ago.
Well, then that's after this, because I got these about 4 days ago.
There you go.
I propose a split screen mode for cab 2 display. In this mode, half the screen would be occupied by an active switch or accessory display with commands, prompts, and other by an active display, and the other by an active display engine display with active commands. It would be cool to simultaneously control switches or accessories while still having access to an engine without toggling between screens by pressing the soft keys. More keystrokes, more complications, less fun. A split screen would enhance streamline interactivity and would be even cooler if the user could simultaneously control 2 engines in a split screen mode.
It's not that big.
Does everybody understand that question? Basically, he wants to be able to have 2 screens showing 2 engines or an engine and an accessory. Good suggestion. However, I can't promise that we will have the design cycles to implement this kind of change. Therefore, I will have to state that I doubt a feature of this development magnitude will happen.
2 remotes.
Number 19, improve control of city horn. Restore the horn icon used on older GS4s. Pushing the horn button should enable the horn and disable the whistle. While engaged, the slider would allow the horn to be quilled. The horn would stay engaged until the user pushes the horn button again. The new GS6 method is cumbersome. Is this possible? We have changed the design to use the new key presses to accommodate more than 2 signal sounds. For example, the Milwaukee S3 has 2 whistles and a horn. Some compromises have been reached when designing for multiple products and a limited icon soft keys on the cab too. Can the LSU software be upgraded to allow user to input names, accessories, switches, and routes? Yes, of course, such an upgrade is possible. I'd like to comment that we offer many of our utilities at no charge, and such we have 0 budgets for these utilities. The only way programs like LSU's are possible when folks contribute their spare time to the cause. Can't speculate on when changes will be applied to programs like LSU and LCS iPad. The improvements happen when we feel the need for some creative cycles in engineering. I'm going to start moving through these a little quicker because we got a few things, other things to go. Need a beta tester. Now that gave me a chuckle because I was wondering about the same thing as I read over your answers. We only work with beta testers that can be available to meet at our development office. Do you live in San Francisco Bay Area? Any plans now that the iPad, I'm going to read this because this is my question. I basically wanted to know now that the iPad has some options to control TMCC accessories directly, are they going to try to make more of those accessories? Absolutely, and we're doing just that. Related to question 7, this is the LSU PC question. Can it go through the Wi-Fi? We've already got that answer. It's something possible in the future. This was touched upon on the last lug meeting. Basically, engines without sensors, could they create a boxcar that would contain a sensor so that you could pair it with a non-censored engine and still have the ability to display the road name and everything? I'd like to do this very much and allow the user to set a road name number, transmit it to cab 2, maybe Electric Railroad can offer this upgrade board, so obviously somebody's thinking about it. Now that the app is up and available and the LCS parts are near, any additional goodies to look forward to either app enhancements or hardware-wise? We have to save some secrets for the next lug meeting. Seriously though, Mike Reagan may have some thoughts and products for the future. He's actively helping product development team and always great idea. Before he answers though, Al, would you like to make your small announcement?
Sure. I don't know.
This kind of has some bearing on that question too.
We've been working with trying to get TMCC working with our turntables and transfer tables with our auto indexing system. And we've done that now, and so that the table can talk to TMCC and you can select your tracks and what have you. We're also talking with Lionel as far as making it a better interface with their Cat 2 remotes and the LCS. So, more things on that line. Hopefully we can do a lot of good things with it. We're using a data line driver right now to get the TMCC into our system, but that might change as we go along. That's pretty much it. If you want to see what we're doing, you can stop by the booth today and look. One other thing about the LCS, you mentioned in one of those questions about possibly knowing where the engine was in response to the track. Our system now, we're trying to do for future use, is to know the track or the train coming in onto the inbound track for our turntable or transfer table, so that the turntable automatically rotate to that track for storage if you have an assigned track for your stall. So, that's it. Thank you.
Scott has some information for you guys that he'd like to share as well.
So my name is Scott Kantner. Good morning, and I promised him 30 seconds, so I'm going to go 100 miles an hour. If you need it slower, I'll hang out and I'll say it again. My company is developing some apps to go along with LCS, the first of which is Loco Commander. It is a Cab 2 emulator. Right? You can't see it from the back, but I'll show it to you. This is pretty much ready to go, and we'll definitely be ready in July-ish. So, you know, it looks just like a Cab 2 so that you guys can get familiar with it. My point is now, we're going to need some testers. There's a little bit of catch-22 right now because you can't test it without the board. Right? So, we're going to say July-ish and look in the LCS, or yeah, the thread in the OGR forum, the LCS thread. I'm going to put a link in there. If you'd like to try to qualify for the beta program, please sign up for that. What I'm looking for is people who don't just have legacy control system. We need to test with TMCC, all the variations that are out in the wild, the R100, the Cruise Commander M, all those things. We can't possibly afford to get all that stuff in our lab, so need some help. And then you'll also be getting, even though the app's going to be in the store on day one, it's going to be a lightweight version. You as a beta tester, of course, are going to get more than that. And we want some commitment from you to report back on your experiences. On that survey form, where we're going to say, what are you going to test with? I want to know what kind of engines you've got, so that we don't have a lot of overlap and duplicated effort. If you'd like to see the app, they were smart enough to put a password on that, so I couldn't take control of this while I was sitting here. But
I know the password, I'll give it to you.
we can talk afterwards. So, thank you, Marty.
Quick question?
Yep,
iPhone, Android?
just iPhone and iPad.
And I'll have Scott email me his links and everything and make sure it gets put in the summary. So now that I want to get those guys in pretty quick, because everybody's short, we're kind of running short on time, and once Mike gets going with the questions and everything, that usually takes some time, so goodies we can look forward to.
Yeah, so the TPC 300s, TPC 400s, whatever's out in the marketplace, that's the last of them for now. That'll be upgraded to the new PDI cabling system, like the sensor track and the ASC and the BPC2s, ASC2s. So probably 15C2, you'll see the TPC2 catalog. I don't know at this point whether we're going to split it 300, 400 again. We're just going to put a switch in there like we have on the Legacy Power Master for 7.5 and 10 amp. So there will be a TPC2 coming. There's an AMC2 coming. So the AMCs that are out there with TMCC1, once those are gone, they're discontinued. They'll be replaced by the AMC2s. Just so everybody is aware, how many people here have one of those acronyms from Lou Kovach? Lou Kovach's old company, right? Not the 2 version, the original 1 version. Everything you have now is currently supported by the new system. So the ASC2s and BPC2s, sensor tracks, Wi-Fi, serial 2, all of that will still communicate with your older stuff, so nothing is being phased out. The trick is we have that SER2 serial 2 device. Basically what the serial 2 device does is it tags into the high-speed network through the PDI cables and slows the communication rate down to those older devices. There's no degradation in performance. It's not like you bought it, you've got it all wired, now you've got to replace it all. It's all still 100% compatible. So that's what's on the horizon for now. There's some other things that we're toying with. OTC2s, we're trying to see how we can improve that to where we can have more than just 2 operating coupling tracks controlled. But that's pretty much in development. And to be honest with you, with everything we have on our plate for 14, it's kind of on the back burner. We're keeping John pretty busy, staying up and on top of having code done for locomotives. And that's keeping him very busy, so we've kind of pushed LCS to the back burner because I need to keep production going. But 15C1 and 15C2 will have some pretty exciting pieces in it that'll help it enhance the operation all around, both conventionally and in command. So that's about all I can tell you before I start spilling the beans of what we're making next year. You don't need it. Legacy Cab 2, you've got 5 minutes of recording, and that recording's stored in the cab. So if you have 4 cabs, you got 4 different recordings. With the introduction of sensor track, you can do a recording for just that sensor track. You can do a recording for that sensor track and every single command that everyone in the club pushes when you're in record mode, and replay the whole thing. What I do have to say is I'm really happy that I'm in production now, because when the sensor track comes out, the questions that these guys are going to have to answer, I'm in production, I can't help it.
When are you guys going to come out with a kit so we can adapt the sensor tracks to other tracks?
Okay, so you want the official answer or you want my answer?
Yeah.
Both.
You just want Mike's.
Okay.
Tell us which is which.
The official answer is that'll be available sometime in late 15. Okay, now off the record,